So today I'm here to talk about one of my kind of biggest stumbling blocks in this journey so far. And it wasn't a I guess, I don't know what to call it, a stumbling block or not. It was just something that I have never encountered in my life, really. And so it really sent me on a journey within myself to figure out what I would do. And it's really hard to know what you would do unless you've been faced with it. So today we're talking about termination as a surrogate, but basically it's the same across the board, whether it's my child or not, or, you know, all of that. So I mentioned in my other videos that in the application, the extensive application process, there were 3 questions at the end. There was actually 4, but I had issue with 3. The first question was, if my life was in danger, would I terminate the pregnancy? And I was like, yep. Then there was, forget the exact order, but one was, would I terminate the pregnancy if the baby had Downs? Then there was another one, would I terminate the pregnancy if the baby had trisomy 18, or a defect in which it couldn't survive outside the womb, or would need severe like extreme medical intervention to stay alive, like life support, or, you know, that kind of thing. Did I just say 2? There's another one. There's the one for me and then 3 others. Anyway, same kind of thing. So when I answered these, I mentioned the other video how at first I was like, I talked to Matt about them when I was doing the initial application. And we're just like, okay, well, you know, we're Christians and we're practicing Christians, and for us, we believe that God creates life and God takes life away. And through this journey, and through just life in general over the last several years, I mean, becoming older and having other people and just myself experience different things in life, I have learned that things are not as cut and dry as you think they are. Yes, I believe that God takes life, that God creates life, and that He takes it away, and that's not something for me to do. But under that, it's not as simple as that. Okay, so I initially sent in the application with, I would terminate if my life was in danger, if it was risking my life. And then I said no for all of the others. I wouldn't, because I'm like, you know, God's the creator of life and He could heal at any time. Who am I to do it? I didn't give much thought at first. And then when we were going over the application, like I said, with a woman with the agency named Carol, which I think she's amazing. And because I haven't dealt with infertility, this is a whole new thing to me, you know, like, yes, I've had children, but I've had 2 really healthy pregnancies, and I've never been forced to make decisions like this. And so she, not in an effort to persuade me, but she's like, and this is what she said, she's like, can I just tell you, can I give you a bigger picture of what, you know, these people's realities are? And so she just shared a lot of like what's going on. And then, so I took 2 entire weeks. And with me, like, when I decide to do something, I'm like gung-ho. So the fact that I took 2 weeks, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm passively thinking about this for 2 weeks. No, it was all day, every day, sitting on the couch with my husband, working through this stuff. And I got to the point, I'm not even kidding you, I was so, like, messed up by it. I was so messed up by it because I was putting myself in the IP's place, of if this was my child, would I want to make the decisions, or would I want the surrogate to make the decisions for my child who I've gone through so much already to even get? Would I want somebody else making the decisions for me, or let me and my doctors make the really hard decisions that we're going to agonize over, and they're just going to respect what we've decided? Of course I wanted that. Of course I'd be like, this is my child. Of course I'm going to decide. But then it's just like, well, how, me as surrogate, yes, it's happening in my body, which also is really important. Like, if I had to walk in for like an abortion, or, what do they say? What is the terminology? Where because after 20 weeks with the agency, you can't have an abortion. They induce you to deliver. Like if there's a really big issue. I'm going to have to live with that. I'm going to have to live with the fact that I walked in and this happened in my body. So all of these things were going through my mind, and like, they're hard decisions, and they're going to be hard for the IPs to make. And like me, like even to me to live with their decisions. And I just really put myself in, okay, well, what if this happened? What if the baby was diagnosed with this? What if this? Like real life situations of people that I've known. Somebody I knew, a really close friend to my aunt, my uncle, their third or fourth daughter during pregnancy. I don't know all the details, but she was diagnosed basically to be missing half, like the back half of her head. It wasn't the Zika virus, but it was where like her brain and the back side of her head was just not there. Like, and so the doctor said she was going to die in utero, and if she didn't die in utero, then she would definitely die in birth. And then if she made it through all of that, then she would have minutes to live. There is no chance whatsoever of somebody living with this. And, I had heard this story as it had happened. I believe it's a couple years ago now. And like, it's just like, oh, that's horrible. And they're strong believers, and they chose to believe that God can heal their child anytime. And so they carried her through. They delivered her, and they had like less than 20 minutes with her or something like that. In which, at the time I viewed like, well, that's, with my faith. I know everybody believes different, but this is just for me. I believed at that time, like, yeah, I believe they did the right thing. That's horrible, but I believe they did the right thing. Like, I believe that I would have done that. But when I was during those 2 weeks and thinking about it, what would I have done? And what would I do if it was my baby through a surrogate? And, all of that, I wasn't sure anymore. Because when you really start putting yourself in the situation, when you really put yourself there, and you really can't for every possible scenario out there, but I was doing it with as much knowledge as I had of people who had gone through these different things, and trying to put myself in there, trying to imagine what that would mean daily, waking up in the morning, not knowing if that child was still living in me, and, all of this stuff, like what that meant in relation to God, what that meant within me, what that meant in my daily life of telling my children, like, yeah, I'm pregnant, and yeah, it's your sister, but she's not going to live outside of me. Like, like all of this stuff. So it was heavy. It was 2 weeks of just emotional, like, turmoil. And like, that's the way that I work though, because I'm like, this is huge. I can't take this lightly. I can't just say, oh, they can make any decision they want. And then God forbid we get in that situation and I'm not okay with it anymore because I hadn't thought it through. I'm like, I have to think this through. I have to, for myself, really come to a decision, because if I don't, then when anything comes up, I can't do that. So I took 2 weeks. I spent non-stop time talking with Matt. Talked to my mom. I talked to my sister. I talked to my best friend. I talked to my mother-in-law. All of which people that I trust their spiritual walks and their belief in God. And I know me and know what it would do to me if I had to do that. And all of which mothers themselves. And well, what would you do if this was your child? Like, yeah, it's really easy to say that God's the creator of life and that he's the one who decides when life is given and when life is taken. I agree with that. But when you delve deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, it's not so cut and dry as that. I'm speaking for myself and where I have come. So I'm not putting this on anybody. This is just my journey. I still do believe God's the creator of life and God decides when life is taken. But how did I so quickly answer that first question of if my life is in danger, would I terminate the pregnancy? I didn't even think twice about that. I was like, yep, I would, because I have a family, I have a husband, I have 3 kids. Like, but how does that fit into the equation of God giving and taking life? Because I would take it in a heartbeat if my life was in danger. And then then I felt so horrible. Like, it made me feel so gross. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, then I'm deciding like, oh, I'm more important than this child. And I know ultimately, emotions aside, well, I'm doing this to bless somebody else, but does that mean that my husband has to live with a wife and that live without a wife and that my 3 children now don't have a mother? Like, it just got so messy. Like, I just learned through this, just like, there's no cut and dry. And so I went through all of those for those 2 weeks. But I finally came to a point where I was like, you know what? There were so many different aspects. There was like, am I not going to do something out of fear that there's a small chance that this even comes up? I mean, it's a big thing to come up, don't get me wrong. And there's a chance that it happens. So obviously it happens to somebody, because that's what makes those percentages of happening versus not happening. But am I going to not help somebody become parents because I am too afraid of that small chance? I mean, just a little background. These embryos, in order to be join this agency, they're tested to the extreme. They don't have any genetic issues, all of this stuff. So we're talking about fluke, developmental, yes, obviously I'm well aware that happens all the time, but we're not, I mean, a huge factor of genetic issues has already been taken out of that. So it happens. It's really rare, but it does happen. And, I talked to the agency and there's only a couple of times in which this has happened. So very, very rare, but I knew that I had to come to a place of peace before I moved any bit more forward with this. So back to where my conclusion in all of this, and this is where my peace is, and this is where I am now, and I will continue to remind myself of, if things get hairy, is that no matter how deep I delve into all of this, just like anything in life, there's no, at least for me, there's no clear, this is what God wants you to do. I believe that situations, how do I say this? That it's all in relationship. I'm a Christian. I believe that it's all about relationship with God and Jesus. He's not a God of rules. Jesus is about love first. And that if he's called me to do this, if he's led me to do this, or if it was just completely me and not him, I believe that he'll honor my heart in doing this. but ultimately, he's in control. He knows already if something's going to happen. And that just needs to be my peace, that he's in control and that he will help me along the way. Just like anything in life. Like, bottom line's in, he's in control. So no matter what we do, he's still in control and he's there no matter what. No matter if tragedy strikes, he's there to comfort me. No matter if it's amazing, he fills me with joy. Like, and that's the place that I came as a believer, because, somebody really important in my life told me that they didn't believe that Christians should be doing this, that it's not, because it's such an ethical issue that Christians above all should not be doing this. And that really, really got me, because I believe, now I'm getting all religious, so I'm sorry for those who do not believe, but this is who I am and this is how I got here. So this is what I'm sharing. I believe Christians are called to love on each other more than anything else. We should be known by our love. So why would this be something Christians shouldn't do? Like, not that I'm saying all Christians should do this, but like, shouldn't it be the Christians who are giving of themselves and their body and loving on other people who are hurting and just long for a child? Like, shouldn't that be Christian? Like, I don't know. I've gone through a lot in this journey, emotionally, and like spiritually. But that's just where I am, and that's what I rest on, is the peace and knowing that God's in control. And he already knows if something's going to happen. And you know what? If something happens, whether it's amazing or if it's hard, he's going to be there and he's going to help me through it. And that's bottom line. That's as with everything in life. And so that's what got me through those questions. And ultimately, my decision in those questions were whatever the IPs decide. And I know lots of people who are very close to me who vehemently disagree. And that's okay, because everybody has their own journey. And obviously, they haven't been called to this. I believe that I have. And that's okay, because you don't have to, everybody doesn't have to agree with me, because our relationship is based on love, not the fact that they agree with everything that I agree with. Because then no one would like me, because no one agrees with everything that I do. And I don't agree with everybody, everything everybody else does, because that's not what it's about. It's about love. Relationships are founded on love. And that covers disagreements in what one person decides and what one person doesn't agree with. So, obviously, I don't take this lightly. I haven't taken this lightly, and it's led to some massive arguments with some people that I am the closest with, because they don't agree with it. But bottom line is, like, relationships are more important than if you agree on everything. And this is my journey, and this is what feels right for me, and this is what feels right for my husband. And that's where we are. That's how we got here. Sorry, my phone rang. But yeah, so that's where I am now, and I have peace with it. I do. And even when, like, I talk about it sometimes, like if somebody says, well, you're going to do this, part of me still feels that, like, that stress come up of, oh, really? Did I really agree to that? Like, if they say, but I constantly fall back on that piece, and I'm reminded of, you know what? There are no certainties in life. There are not, and all there is faith, really. I mean, I can go to pick up my kids from school and we can all die on the way home. Anything. So there are no certainties, and I don't want to be a person who just plays it safe my entire life. I'm not going to take massive unnecessary risk. But for me, this was worth it. For me, this touches such a deep part of my heart that it is so worth it to help somebody else the for the risk that it puts on me, on my body, on my family. Like, it is so worth it because I believe it is such an amazing thing that and for me, when it comes to even just the health, like going through another pregnancy and what that does to my body and the potential of, like things that can happen in a normal, healthy pregnancy. I mean, for anybody who's been pregnant out there, that and any number of things can happen. Any number of things can go wrong. I wouldn't think twice about it if I was having another child of my own. And I know that these people that I love in my life would never think twice about it if it was my own child. But you know what? It's so worth it for me to help out somebody else have another child, like have a child of their own. So that's my heart in this. That was kind of like my mental working through of the termination questions. I believe it's very heavy, and if you're a surrogate or somebody interested in surrogacy, I really encourage you to search yourself and see what you feel comfortable with and ask yourself the hard questions, because there's a chance that it may happen. There's slim chances, yes, but they do happen, and that's why they're chances. They do happen to somebody. And just to search yourself and to know what you feel comfortable with and what you don't feel comfortable with, and to stand by that. So yeah, that was heavy. And this was a very long video, so I'm sorry for that. But it's something that was hugely a part of my journey so far, and I felt the need to document for myself, for those that I love who are partnering and traveling this journey with me, and for those who are on the journey themselves or who are thinking about embarking on this journey. So anyways, I will see you guys next time. Bye.